right, Kansas Helen, and we have, I'm going to start that over. All right, Kansas Helen here, and today we have Sarah, is it Prue?
Preu. Yep.
Good. I've never heard it pronounced, so I wasn't sure. She is running for Congress in the District 3 against Sharice Davids.
David's. Yep.
Davids. I always get it wrong. In the Democrat primary in August, I'm very excited to talk to her. So, the first question I like to ask every candidate is, do you know what it's like to not have one more penny?
No, one more penny. Oh, wait. We're in the midst of the penny crisis, right? So we will all feel this shortly, right? I keep seeing these little signs about how they won't take they have to take exact change and
Oh,
things like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. What's the answer? Tell me what the answer.
This question came about. It was the first question I asked Anne, my very first interview. And because at the time Wichita was they were trying to get a 1% sales tax passed. It was a whole debacle. And they were just like, it's just another penny. And I was like, I don't have another penny. And everyone was like, yeah, we don't have another penny. And it didn't pass. And so I've literally been a penny short or not had one more penny. I've had to borrow a dollar, had somebody Venmo me a dollar while I'm at a checkout, or Venmo
Sure.
me a dollar to pay my rent because there was a $4.95 fee. It just means, have you ever been like just like destitutely broke? I guess is
That's the translation.
the
Well,
translation.
yes, yes, multiple times in life. Yeah. I was raised in a house that really was, we were the working poor. There were five kids, there were seven of us in the house, and little 1,000 square foot house outside of Leavenworth. And yeah, my parents both worked two jobs. My dad actually worked two full-time jobs for 4 or 5 years of my childhood. So I saw him for 45 minutes in the morning, and then I saw him for 2 hours, 3 hours at night when he wasn't sleeping. And so 100% yes. And I also worked full time for the last 3 years going through college myself. One of the job I actually had was pretty cool. I was the director of a nonprofit called the Student Emergency Loan Fund at the University of Minnesota. We had $3.5 million in loans available to students at low interest, like 2% interest. And it was for 120 days. And our default rate was like 3%. So, like everybody, so what does that tell you? The thing we always know, right? Poor folks take care of each other. They take care of the programs that they utilize. They're trustworthy. So,
Yeah.
but we would get folks in who couldn't pay for books. They'd visit us every single semester for an emergency loan for their books until their financial aid got dispersed because they couldn't wait, right? We had homeless students who came through there, and I helped them get rent together, and just a real crash course in young adult reality at the poverty level, but still trying to do something more and something better. And yeah, that advocacy work has stuck with
Claw,
me.
clawing your way
Clawing,
out of
exactly
poverty.
right.
Yeah. So where did you fall in the five children?
I am the only daughter, and I am the second to last. So basically, I was default mom when mom was working one of her two jobs. My mom actually went back to college when I was in seventh grade, I believe. She was 40. And by the time I was a senior, she worked full time and was taking night classes. By the time I was a senior and junior in high school, we were taking night classes together at the community college. So I remember I took comp one and two with my mom, and it was a unique experience. And then flash forward, and she graduates, the first woman in her family to graduate with a higher education degree. And then me 2 weeks later, walking across the stage at the University of Minnesota. She was proud of herself. She was proud of me. And she worked really hard. She worked really hard for those five kids. She was a social worker. She went to KU and got her MSW and then became an LMSW. And I always say that anything I learned about advocacy, I learned from my mom, because when you're the kid of a social worker, like it's like you're deputized, man. Like you're deputized to go and help. And I cherish those memories. They were really, we grew up poor, but I will tell you, some of the families that she worked with, that was eye-opening even for me. We saw levels of poverty in America in small town Leavenworth, KCK, that I think most people in this district would probably be shocked by. I remember distinctly going with her one time to take diapers to a family she was working with, and they were actually living in an abandoned apartment complex in KCK. The landlord had let it go to foreclosure. There was no electricity, there was no running water. We were bringing diapers and formula and bottled water. And yeah, it was that one will stick with me probably my whole life. And the funny thing about my mom was I remember being like, we're in the middle of this abandoned apartment complex. There's kids running everywhere. They're coming up to her and, hey, Diana, hey. And I'm like, Mom, do you got your keys? And she's like, oh, I've never locked my car in my life, Sarah. And it's true. She never, ever had to lock her car wherever she went, whatever neighborhood she was in, she was family. And that's because she was an advocate for the most vulnerable people in our
Yeah.
society.
I think that my mom was always like, there could always be worse. I didn't know we were poor until I grew up and looked back at it. And then my neighbors, at the time, I don't remember thinking about how poor my neighbors were. But looking back on how, like one particular period about how poor we were, I was like, my goodness, my mom hit it pretty well. But I think that there's always worse is kind of like, it's how they do to keep you going, right? That's what they do. They got to keep you scared. They got to keep a few people homeless. They got to keep some people in poverty. They got to keep some people down, basically, so that they
As a
always have
lesson.
the threat. If you slow down, if you stop, if you don't keep going, if you don't obey, you're gonna be homeless like that person or whatever. And so, but we could even raise that and people still be plenty scared, right?
They'd find another way to keep us afraid, right?
I'm just saying, I don't live that great. I only need maybe $20,000 a year to live pretty comfortably in my life now. And so it's like, my life still ain't, I'd be happy. That'd be all I need. Right. And so but still, that's not enough. People still going to look at my life and be like, no, I don't want to live like that. Yeah. I think just basic necessities would be great if
Yeah.
everybody could just have those. We got the money.
We definitely have the money. Yes.
Who's going to pay for it? That's what I've been arguing with people on the internet for the last couple of days about homeless people. Who's going to pay for it? I'm like, we're already paying.
That's exactly right. Especially when you start talking about healthcare, right? One of the few things you can say about the Reagan era is they came out with there was that law that required if the hospital got federal funding that they could not turn you away. And that's a beautiful thing, right? But the other part of that was it still costs money and to give folks care. And that was the Reagan era of deregulation and cutting taxes for the top and trickle down economics. And lo and behold, folks still got the care. What it meant was nobody was paying for it. So we collectively had to pay for the bad write-off debt that these hospitals were. And then as healthcare prices went up and up, we're still doing that, guys. We're cost sharing. We're cost sharing with people who don't have health insurance. It's far better to just make sure and predictable in our costs if we were to just insure Medicare for all.
We're paying for it either way in the most expensive, least effective way possible.
With no negotiation, really, right? Medicare gets negotiation, but Medicare shows you the model works, guys. It works.
And then for Kansas, we didn't even expand it the little we could have with mostly federal money. I'll never understand it. I don't care if Trump said he was going to give us money like without some sort of freaky strings attached, right? If the ACA had come out of Trump, I would expand Medicaid and take it. I don't care. Name was behind it. And so it's just so silly to me to refuse that just because of whose name's behind it.
It was bonkers. It really was. One time I actually got to tell Sam Brownback that to his face.
God.
It was really cool. It was cool. It was like, I just one of those little magical things that happened in life. I was at an event with him and he was with his family. It's totally unrelated to politics. He had this little bucket hat on. We were outdoors. I don't think he knew that I knew who he was. and we were in Arkansas. It was an event in Arkansas. So and this was during the first Trump era or administration.
The universe was like,
It was. And I waited till the very end when everybody's filtering out and it was just he and I. And I got to tell him what a disappointment he was and that he is also, by the way, a Catholic And I got to ask him if he thought the Pope agreed with denying people health care by limiting Medicaid. And he's, there are several opinions. You don't know what the, and I'm like, I know what teaching says. And yeah, it's a disappointment. And he just got super awkward. It was so great. I live for making people like that have an awkward moment.
Yeah, I don't do it intentionally.
Oh, I
Like
did it intentionally.
I haven't. I do it, but I don't necessarily do it intentionally. It just, if I was just out and I saw Brown back during that time, I don't, you know what I mean? I just would have said stuff to him. I wouldn't have really put a lot of thought into it, which is not always the best way to go either. And it's why I am not running for an office, because I don't want to give up my ability to do that. I want to say what I want to say when I want to say it. And so I know when you run for a candidate, you can't just do that anymore. I'm already limited as it is with the work I do. But yeah, I don't know what I would have said if I saw a Brown.
It was great. There's been a couple of times in life I've gotten a little sweet little moment like that. Not too long ago on this campaign, I was in the room with the NAACP and at an event, and they were having a candidate forum, really all candidates, really cool, open forum. And Chris Kobach is in the back of the room. And I got to give my stump speech in front of Chris Kobach talking about abolishing ICE and how it's an abuse of our civil rights. And he had to stand there and take it and be quiet. And it felt very good to say abolish ICE and end ICE, and here's how we're going to do it in front of Chris Kobach. So
The
he was
close, sorry,
enabled that so much in our state.
the closest I've gotten to being able to say anything to anybody, he was just walking too fast. And by the time I realized it was him, I was at the Capitol and it was Pat Proctor walked by. But I was like, by the time I fully recognized it, it was so busy. There were so many people around and he just disappeared into people.
He's
And
easy to miss.
yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He walks fast for such a little age.
He goes pretty fast. Yeah.
He was like, he looked like he was on a mission to go somewhere. But yeah, I think that I don't immediately respect somebody just because of, especially a job or a
Yes.
label that they've chosen. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you still have to earn it. I don't care. I just don't immediately have respect for anyone. I don't necessarily disrespect everybody, but everybody comes
Sure.
neutral. And then, but I'm not immediately, just because you have some label behind your name, I'm not immediately going to have, yes, sir, no, sir, that stuff,
We don't
you
have
know?
an aristocracy in this
Yeah.
country, technically, yet.
Yeah.
I know it looks like it with people's family members getting Senate seats bequeathed to them, but I do think,
You know,
technically speaking, and that's why I'm running this race. Like,
yeah.
guess what? I can, and that's the beautiful part of democracy. I can do this.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're primarying her. And I was hoping somebody would, and that somebody would be somebody appropriate that was worth supporting. And because she really needs to be replaced, I think. And I know that the establishment here and everything really supports her.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I feel like the people, the actual voters, the people, I don't know anybody in your area that's going to vote for you one way or the other. But the
Mm-hmm.
people that are outside the area that we're all watching that are tied in and watching the races, they're all excited for your campaign. Just so
That
you know.
makes me feel great. Thank you.
The progressive liberal, I don't know what Democrat, whatever you want to call my
I know. We're
I
struggling with labels always, right?
my friends and people that I know in Wichita run the gamut from, you know, pretty like progressive to like communists, right? And they run the full gamut of the entire actual left. And then
Yeah.
there's a sprinkling of liberals in there a little bit, but they're all this close to radicalizations. I'm just saying that it is the whole side, like they all like you. They're all happy that you're running.
Thank you.
So I wish
Thank you.
they could vote for you.
I wish they could vote for me too, but I think, but you're touching on something I think you probably seen, I think you're alluding to, which is really, despite all this talk of moderation and bipartisanship is like the gold standard, it seems to be the gold standard for Democrats. It seems to be a non-issue on the other side. It doesn't seem to matter if they're bipartisan or not. Like the other side of the aisle doesn't seem to care. As long as they keep a base appeased or distracted or whatever you want to say, right? But I think on the Democratic side, I think this sort of deification of bipartisanship has led to actually the base moving even, I think, further from center. Like you could have talked to me. I mean, I don't think I was aware of the fact that I was a progressive probably 2 cycles ago, right? I thought I fully aligned with my rep, right? And then I start to dig a little and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's literally never signed on for Medicare for all. That just seems like a real basic one, right? Isn't that what we're all doing here? And then I see some problematic votes and then I see some problematic money. And then I'm just like, man, maybe I'm far, maybe I'm more progressive than I realized when I look at this person who I thought really represented my value set, right? And so I'm with you that I think there's a lot of people who are waking up to this and realizing this is not the party of John Lewis anymore. This is not Shirley Chisholm's party. Where are our Geraldine Ferraros? Like, where are they? And we're told not to ask for them even. Be grateful for what you get, right? Be grateful for a blue seat. Be grateful because that's always in danger and yada, 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 right? And then when I go and talk to the actual voter base, which I consider myself really representative of the voter base, truly, I wouldn't be running this campaign if I thought, oh, no, I'm probably a little too far left. I am very representative of the people in this district who actually show up to vote in primaries and vote in generals. And I have been a lifelong Democrat, right? And I'm waking up and looking at this party thinking, why are you equally okay with a Republican value set here? It's like the distinction is not high. The contrast is not high enough for me. Turn up the contrast a little bit because I just see us voting. I see us running in place, right? Vote for arms for Israel, but then also vote some humanitarian aid in for Gaza. Okay, that to me is just the most bizarre approach to that. What is your value? What are your values? What are your ethics? I can't tell. I can't tell.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel good to hear. And it's what I'm hearing here too, Helen. I go door to door, I knock doors, even in the party itself, for folks who are long suffering progressives in the party, they're whispering to me like, stay, I'm gonna vote for you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm afraid to put a sign in my yard. I don't want to have a bumper sticker. I don't want anybody to be mad at me, but I am going to vote for you.
Yeah. I think that I have a theory on what has happened. I think that the Tea Party took over the Republicans by taking over precinct committee positions and then county positions. They took over the foundation and then they built that foundation, which is where Trump and MAGA came in. They built it for Trump and MAGA. They didn't know it, I think, at the time, but that's ultimately what happened. And so when they finally got their charismatic leader, they had the foundation of precinct committee people and all these other people that were on board. And so what happened on the other side of things in that same crisis is it was a 2008 crisis made everybody mad. And that was the right's solution, was to take the party over. And the progressive or left, or I don't know, whatever you want to call them, they continued to try to pressure from the outside. And their solution was to get progressive candidates elected. But they did not try. They did. I don't know how much they tried. I know we tried in 2016 in Wichita and got fought off, tried to take over precinct committee positions. And so what happened was the Democratic Party spent more time fighting off a progressive takeover like the Tea Party, because they saw what happened to Republicans, than they did fighting the Tea Party that they didn't take seriously enough to begin with. And it happened like, it just
agreed. I agreed. Yeah, I remember
so they were not giving it enough credit, and then also not worried. They were more worried about a progressive takeover of the party than they were a fascist takeover of the Republicans. And
explain it. I explain that, right?
Well, so what happened? So what happened was, is as the right got righter, The Democrats chased their people. They just kept wanting to find more of the middle to get Republican voters, to steal their voters. And then at some point, it just became a game. And your sports teams, and we're Democrats and we're Republicans, and we're going to win and we're going to lose and we're going to win, we're going to lose, and then we all are losing. And now some people are just like, try to get somebody to give up their sports team. How long is their sports team going to lose? They don't care. That's their team, right? And there's still some of those core people left with the Democrat Party. But the key is the unaffiliated voters. Not that it helps in a primary, but after the primary, like,
I have unaffiliateds coming up to me telling me they've registered, they've affiliated so they can vote for me.
I've
So
affiliated to vote for Cindy Holscher, and
there you
because
go.
I don't guess I need to be a Democrat to help with Democrat campaigns, but I switch to Democrat when there's somebody I want a primary for.
I have people on I have people in my volunteer group who tell me that all the time. They're like, "Hey, I like 90% of the time I'm unaffiliated because I want to vote for who I want to vote for." And when it comes to primary time, I go and I affiliate with the Democrats and or
I have someone to vote for, I affiliate with them. Somebody that so moves me to
yeah.
switch it and to switch it back and all that other nonsense. But yeah, I think this is going to be it's a good year. It's a good year for you to do it. I think
Thank you.
this is the year
I
that
agree.
there's no time like now. It's going to be like, it's so hard. You have all these analysts looking at voter data and previous election data, and I'm looking at that stuff too. And it's like, how can I even make a prediction based on that stuff? The world is so different than it was 2 years ago, not just politically people's alignments, but just people have moved all around.
Agree.
Wichita,
Yeah.
I don't know about your area, but Wichita area's got an influx of people from big cities that have no tie to Kansas, that
Oh,
have just
interesting.
they've just said, we work remote or we work a job that we can do wherever, and we can buy a mansion in Wichita for what we have in Seattle or Denver or New York or wherever. I've met at least 10 people in the last year or so in Wichita that have, like I said, they may have a tiny tie there, they have a friend there or something, but they're not coming back home. I've met a lot of those too that have moved away and are coming back because they've been priced out of the bigger cities and they have no choice.
Yeah.
They're like, I
Yeah.
guess I'll go home. But no, there are people actively choosing to come to Wichita, and because they can get, for $500,000, they can buy a mansion.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I didn't know if that's something that was going on over in your guys' area that you've noticed.
I think that has definitely happened really since the pandemic. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you've seen more of an influx of folks from all over the country looking for cheaper housing and good schools and just a calmer way of life and all of those. It's very easy to live here. We have a nice reality here for the most part, but it takes real governance to keep it that way. And yeah, I agree with you. And I think because of that, probably that might be another reason that folks are moving to more of a progressive point of view. But I don't think you can discount exactly what you said. The last 2 years, just culturally and politically, are so out of pocket strange that
To have liberals calling for the abolishment of a law enforcement agency,
yes.
that's
Yes.
that's a nice chip in the armor. I'll take it. And I'm gonna push it. I'm like, yeah, now. And I want to be like, look, and they're just like this other law enforcement. You know what I mean? And so it's something that I didn't think I would see, that the sway of a public opinion to abolish a law enforcement agency of any level.
And I think for ICE, you can argue that's not something that has existed for all that long, and that and back even when it was created, folks thought it was a redundant agency initially, right?
Mm-hmm.
When DHS was created and they rolled up all these programs. For me, abolish ICE isn't even the most controversial thing I say, right? It's like 40, anywhere, depending on what data you look at, we've got between 40 and 70% of independents polled saying, I agree with the sentiment, abolish ICE. Now, they are just in agreement. What they actually think that means can take a lot of forms. But the reality is that it isn't, you're seeing this is a public health threat. This is a safety issue. We've got these agents shooting into populated streets, into cars with 3-year-olds in them. It's just, they're pitting a car with a young family. That's what just happened in Maine. You're killing innocent people who have all of their paperwork in order. And we're expected to just kind of think that's, oh, an acceptable point of entry into having a safe country. Nobody believes this anymore, except for some very extreme people
Yeah.
on the
That
internet, frankly.
that are that are are racist usually is a lot to do
It is inherently,
with it.
yeah, it seems to me that it is a demographic of people who are fine with that cost, right? Because they just feel that it will never touch their lives. But again, if you look at the recklessness and lawlessness that are in our streets when these folks are doing these ICE raids, even here, even in Kansas District 3, the nation's in the midst of a quiet surge.
Yeah.
And they're not doing the Christine TikTok videos this time, but they're doing the same, if anything, like maybe more dangerous work of doing it clandestinely and doing things like pinning folks into their cars and shooting indiscriminately. And don't kid yourself. You use the same roads, folks who agree with ICE use the same roads and the same sidewalks that the rest of us use. To me, it's a public safety issue. These people should not be detaining people in the middle of the road and
Yeah.
starting chases. And how many people died at this point, even bystanders, we've had all sorts of scenarios that just don't make sense for enforcing a paperwork law. It
Yeah.
just doesn't, this is not having your paperwork in order. It's overstaying a
Yeah, it's
student
not even a
visa. Like,
felony. It's not anything dangerous. It's not even a problem. And yeah, we just the
it's a
we
manufactured problem that is very lucrative in certain
we don't
industries.
need ICE. What we need is to take all that money and put it into processing people to either come here or not come here. We need to get more. There's only 700 judges in the whole country. We need, you know what I mean? We need,
Yeah,
and that's back
immigration
when they passed all
reform.
that stuff. It was right after 9/11 and everything. They got so much stuff through while we were all terrified, right? And the leftists, I remember the leftists at the time, the anarchists and the communists and the socialists, like the leftist. I remember they were warning all of us about how we're going to have mass surveillance, we're going to have a domestic army, we're going to have all this stuff. And then when Obama gave ICE money, they were like, what are you doing? That's going to be a domestic army. And everyone was like, whatever, take off your tinfoil hat and look. And so I think that we need to, maybe start listening to some leftists a little more, some progressive people, because they've been yelling about it this whole time. I feel sorry for the older leftists because, man,
Don't you?
they're
Yeah,
so
yeah,
tired, I bet.
yeah.
They're so tired. They've been yelling since the 90s. They've been yelling since the 90s. You ever met a 65-year-old leftist? They're so tired.
Oh my God. I was in the room with a really great progressive group in this district, and they're mostly in their 70s. There's some the whippersnappers are in their 60s, and they're on the best part of it. Whichever side of history you're going to be on, they're always on the right side, right? They're always doing the correct thing on any given, and have been, to your point, for 30, 40 years, right? And the cool thing about my campaign is I was in the room with them, and I brought some other people were interested and came to their event, and I'm looking at two sides of the room, and I'm seeing our seasoned veterans of activism on one side of the room, and I'm seeing these youngsters in their early 20s, late teens, and they've got the same energy. We've got the same energy on total bookends of the generations that are suffering right now the most, right? And I'm like, this made me feel so great because I just think, for one, the older folks need to be energized. To your point, they've been at this a long time. They went and got arrested at the School of the Americas.
But they gotta pass. They're ready. They're
Long
ready
time.
to pass the mantle, right?
I don't know. They're still hanging in there. They're
Well,
doing
there's a
their
lot to
postcards.
teach.
They're doing it, but they need to teach these younger
Yeah.
folks the effective ways of organizing. And these younger folks can bring in new ways of organizing and can bring in some energy. I feel so lucky to be in the room and to have a campaign that's drawing those kinds of populations together. Because I will tell you, in my early 20s, the most radical people I knew when I was out protesting the first Iraq war, or I guess the second Iraq war, protesting Afghanistan, protesting the death penalty. I was a part of a coalition to abolish the death penalty in my early 20s. All of my people that I learned the most from were in their 60s and up. They were the ones getting arrested. They were the ones like teaching me how to pull these lists of people together, how to build coalition. Those folks know their stuff, and we should be raising the next generation to know how to exercise their First Amendment rights in order to make a better world. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I've been at this a long time. I say the same thing. The Democratic Party in Johnson County maybe doesn't know me, but I have been an activist and a community builder for 25 years, more really, 30. But I remember going to that big protest before Bush 2 announced we were going into Afghanistan and Iraq, going with my dad. And the entire time, he's just weapons of mass destruction. He's a Vietnam vet, by the way. He's a combat vet from Vietnam. And I know a line of bullshit when I hear it. And so he said that, like, there's no weapons of mass destruction. And I'm like, of course there's not, right? Of course there's not. How convenient that they show up right now. And lo and behold, within 24 hours, 48 hours, there was a 20-year war had started. Mm-hmm. Little did we know, right? It would be 20 years. But
the leftist said we get into that war, it's going to be 20 years.
They did. They called it, right?
They said it. They said if we get into this war, it's going to be a long time.
I remember it.
And yeah, I think that I'm pretty excited about the youth. I know people like to crap on Gen Z and even Alpha, because the older Alphas are 13. They're aware. Somebody was arguing with me on TikTok. They're 13. I was like, yeah, and they know stuff. And they have opinions on politics, and they're raring to vote. They can't wait. So I think like in Wichita or even Mays High School, they have these walkouts. And I know there's probably a certain percentage of kids that just want an excuse to walk out of school, but I don't think that's it. I've seen them. I've talked to them. I've seen the protest, their stuff they're doing on their own. And I'm excited that the kids do seem, they want to think they're not engaged, because especially like 18-year-olds that aren't voting, right? They're so disengaged. I'm like, they're not disengaged. You're just not giving them anyone to vote for. You there?
That's it. Yeah. That's it right there. Yeah.
You got to give them someone to vote for, and they'll vote. And so I think you're one of those people. I didn't really get any actual questions in here, but I think you have such great information out there. It's really pretty easy to see how you feel about everything.
Yeah, I've tried to be really transparent in terms of my platform, my issues, and why I'm doing this. And the truth is, everybody likes like a professional wrestling fight, but this isn't about Sharice Davids, man. This is about a really bad framework for actually representing people and working people in governance. Citizens United, it's been very hard for legislators to really have that level of independence. This is considered a career to go in there at this point. And I already have a career. I've been a technology director for a long time. I'm happy in my career. I'm not a corporate lawyer or anything like that. Needs another way to make a buck. I just don't see the kind of urgency to career politicians that we need in the environment we're living in right now. And I want to also call out my liberal folks who tell me, yes, she did vote for that, but she had reasons. She voted for ICE and she wanted to unblock the government shutdown. And hey, man, I'm not saying she didn't have reasons. I'm just saying they weren't good enough for me. Or the people whose children cry themselves to sleep every night, whose children are afraid that their parents aren't going to come home, children who across half a world away, who are losing everything they have, including their lives, because of the arms that we supply over there. So listen, it's never that there's not a reason, okay? But it's never that I'm going to fault you for being bipartisan because I don't like bipartisanship, which is hilarious. What a silly argument. What matters is what you're bipartisan for, right? What you choose to cross the aisle for tells us everything we need to know. And I think that even if that is only 3% of your votes or 2% of your votes, whatever it might be, if it is a moral issue, if there's an issue of morality, you have got to be on the right side of history. And you have to reflect what your constituents are asking you to reflect. I know that folks have organized and asked her for a statement on ICE to back them up. I know that they've asked her to sign on for ceasefires. I know this. I know this because why? Because I'm in activist circles.
Yeah.
Do I
You
fault her for
know, people
playing
are
the political
asking her
game?
because
No, but
you are the people. You know what I mean?
I
You
am.
and your people are the people that are asking her to answer these questions, and they're not. That's how a
That's
lot
right.
of people are leading to run now, is because they've been trying and trying to get from whatever representative it is the representation that they want and that they need and they think the district deserves, and they're not getting it. So they're like, I guess I'm just going to have to go and do it myself.
If you won't answer my calls, listen to my emails, give me anything but a form letter, and you won't give a town hall, I feel like my recourse is the list is short, right? And thank goodness we still have a democracy that allows me to go right down there and register at the Secretary of State in Topeka and put my filing fee down and say, hey, I'm going to give people the option to vote their conscience this year.
Definitely no APAC for you. And then I did want to, I have a note here. You are taking money through Give Butter. Are you not doing the Act Blue at all? You just do the Give Butter?
So I prefer
Interesting.
Give Butter because it's party independent, right? And so yes, I have an Act Blue. There are people who will only give through Act Blue. I
Yeah.
have one. It's not the one I publish. If you find me on there, cool, I'll take it. But the link I give is Give Butter.
Yeah.
And you can,
Both of the candidates I work with have been have people that would like to donate to them, but they do not want to use Act Blue. And so we've been trying to figure out another solution that isn't going to just absolutely take all of our money.
yeah, so Give Butters, it is for progressives typically, and I can help you with that. You do have to do some customization so that you're compliant with FEC requirements, but it's not hard, and there's plenty of DIY info online.
Yeah.
You and I are the same age. That's the other thing I think with Gen X. You can't tell us anything. We've been on the internet before the internet knew what the internet was, right? We are supreme DIYers. We are supreme, do it with a Band-Aid, a paper clip, and a rubber band.
We know how to make do.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Because we as a generation didn't have a lot of adults around to go run and ask how to do everything or what to do, or you know what I mean. We had to just I don't know, spitball it. We had to just make do. We had to just make do till the adults got home. And yeah, so we're pretty good at making do. And I think that you and I, particularly, I did the average, I put all of the different demographics together from the Kansas House districts, and I figured out what is the average Kansas voter.
Oh, okay.
The average Kansas voter is a middle-aged white woman.
There we go.
And that's why the
Yeah.
abortion thing didn't work in 2022.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're generally going to be Republican statistically, but that's that at this point they could be any number of things as equally, you know.
And I also will tell you that there is this Kansas Republican phenomenon you probably know very well, where there's this sort of odd approach to Republicanism where it's essentially, I'm going to be an independent, but I don't want anybody to know I'm an independent. And I'm going to register as a Republican so I can control the narrative on that side. And I have heard what would probably be startling to Democratic leadership in terms of what rural people think that proportion is of Republicans. And I guess you can say, I do think there are some up for grabs. but I don't buy it that it's because you voted for the Lake and Riley Act or because you voted to send more arms to Israel. I don't think those are the things that are winning them over from the Republican side. I think this idea that bipartisanship is the reason they're going to vote for you is odd. That's if it's all about bipartisanship and moderation, then why wouldn't they just continue to vote Republican because the moderates are on the Republican side too. So to your point,
Exactly.
give them a reason to show up and know what the data is saying. The data is saying that abolish ICE isn't actually controversial to the degree that they're presenting it to be. So yeah, explain to me how that those same people are going to tell you how to win. You know what I mean? They don't even.
Oh my gosh, this is what I've been telling my candidates. I'm like, look, take it with a grain of salt. If they
Yeah.
knew how to flip seats, we wouldn't be in this position. And
How do
so,
you have one Democrat House seat that is your crown jewel? Don't get me wrong, for 8 years, and you never figure out how to propagate that into other districts throughout congressional districts throughout Kansas? Okay, if you really know what you're doing, and it's not just the demographics, the reality of the demographics pushing that Democrat seat, then I would think we'd have more than just District 3 as a Democrat. That's what I
yeah,
think. I don't think they really necessarily know.
I don't think we'd have super majorities in both of our chambers in the state house.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I think it's a good, like I said, it's going to be a good year all around. And I think that you're probably, now that Epley's out,
I know.
I would say the most progressive candidate we probably have at almost any level, to be honest with you, that I'm hearing a lot of hubbub or anything about, like at the, whether you're talking about Senate or US House, definitely Kansas House, you're one of the most progressive I've seen. And I was pretty excited. I was equally excited about you and Epley, but now I just got you because Epley will hopefully run for something else. I'm hoping he runs for something local or county or something next year.
I think Cole's very talented, and as a young guy, I think he's got nothing but runway in front of him to really refine his approach. And not that it was bad at all. I think he still had plenty of room to make a lot of impact there.
Yeah,
but I understand too. I get it, right?
My biggest critique of your opponent is that I've seen her multiple times say she's going to do one thing and then she does another, and then her reasons to me are excuses. Don't make promises you can't keep, and then keep the promises you make. If you say I'm going to vote this way, then vote that way. If you say I support this on the campaign trail, you need to support it when you go in there. If you have gotten more information, you've updated your stance, I get that. Cindy Holscher originally was just medical, and then as she went around and talked to constituents, she learned more and more, and now she's fine with rec. And people looked at that as a bad thing. I said, no, it's a good thing. She talked to the people, and she was already halfway there. And so but to go and say, people are tired of politicians saying one thing and doing another. And I think that there's several instances that you can directly say she said this and then did this. It's very clear cut and dry, saying one thing and doing another. And I just,
I think you have to offer real reasons. If you're going to do that, you need to understand the weight of doing that and the cost of doing that. The cost of entry at base is meeting with your constituents, sending out a statement, and giving them the opportunity to voice their disappointment to your face. I think that is the bare minimum. Now, if you've got a safety issue or something, say so. My God, just say so. I know that politics is crazy right now. I think folks would respect that. If you've got some reason to fear for your physical safety, that's maybe something different. But that's not what I've seen here. You can't even do virtual town halls. What's that?
I was at an event in Wichita, but it wasn't one where you could ask her. It was like a social thing. I had thought about going and asking her some pretty point blank questions, but I just didn't have it in me to drive all the way there and do it at the time that it was happening. That's when she was like, there was hubbub that she might run for Marshall's seat for a second there.
There was a lot of talk like that up until the filing date almost. It was not, it was the last few weeks maybe, but yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. She said she wasn't going to, but
She had enough. She's got enough money to do it for sure.
yeah,
So if she wanted to, she could. I think to your point, I think there's just some really basic things when you've worked in the real world for decades and decades. You just have a little more discipline, I think, when it comes to that kind of requirement of the job. You know when you've got to report to your boss, my boss being the people of the district, right? You know when you're going to have a hard
that's key.
conversation.
You know who your boss is because that's not her. It doesn't feel like that's who some of their bosses are. Their boss is the party, or their
Their boss
boss
is the
is
party and their boss is the donor
the
list,
donor.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I put out my campaign finance stuff, I don't put any opinion in it. I'm just like, look where their money comes from. That's who they're going to work for. And it's pretty obvious who some of these people work for and who other people don't. Yeah, the give butter thing is great. If you were going to try to take nefarious money, it's certainly not the
No,
route
it's not the
you
platform for
go.
that. Yeah.
No. And yeah, so yeah, I'm just going to close it up here, but I'm really excited. I hope you do well. I try to stay out of truly supporting one or the other in some of these primaries, but in this one, it's just a no brainer. There's just no question that people need to vote for you in August
Thank you. Thank you
and
so
vote no on the amendment.
No, no
Yes for
amendment.
Sarah Prue. No on the amendment. Yes for Sarah Prue. No on the amendment. That's all y'all people need to remember. But
Thank you so much. I
thank you so
appreciate it.
much. And I would love to interview you again after you win. That'd be great.
Yes,
I hope
you can
I
count on it. I will come back. If I win, you will see me. If I lose, you'll see me too. But I'll be have more interesting things to say probably when.
oh yeah. If you lose, a complete debriefing.
Oh yeah, that'll we won't tape that one. So
You know, that one will need to be over drinks with a box of
that's
tissues
exactly
and
right. Yep.
yeah.
Couple of Gen X ladies just
Yeah.
having it out.
All right. Good luck and I'll be watching. So
Thanks, Helen. Have
thank
a good
you.
one. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.